Are you taking creatine monohydrate? You are not taking enough. It is absolutely insane. There is a brand new study which completely blew my mind, and I wanna roll it out for you here. Creatine sits in almost every single gym bag on the planet for good reason, yes. Nearly everyone buys it for their muscle gains and everything, yes, for good reason. But researchers back in my home country, Germany, at the University of Cologne, asked a different question. What does creatine do to a brain that hasn't slept correctly? All of us sometimes have a not such a good night of sleep. Many of you maybe have that constantly. Some people sometimes, yes. But they've run this twice now, and it worked both times. Very, very indicative evidence here. But the dose they used was nothing like what most of us are taking, 3 grams, 5 grams, 6 grams. You know it, right? Lauding phase 10 grams. No, it was far beyond that. It is crazy. And that's what turns out to be the whole point here. Let's go straight into it. Now I want to be very, very careful, because this is the kind of finding that gets turned into a headline it doesn't really deserve. So why creatine matters to your brain, what both studies actually found, and that is the catch nobody really mentions, it isn't really a muscle thing, or not only a muscle thing, right? It creates energy. It's an energy thing, an energy topic. Your cells run on ATP, and creatine lets them rebuild it very, very fast when demand is spiking, of course, in things like nights when you didn't sleep well or when you worked out very hard, right? Your brain does the same. The problem is getting it in there. Normally, very little crosses into the brain. The first few grams you take from nutrients, from food, from red meat, and so on, and from your supplementation goes into the muscle, of course, but very little goes into the brain. That barrier is the whole story. So in 2024, that team kept people awake for 21 hours, then gave them a single dose of creatine, around 25 grams for an average adult. 25 grams, that's not a daily dose, guys. Disclaimer here, right? I'm not a doctor, but that was also not a daily dose, was that one-time dose. 25 grams, like 5 times more than most people take. Then they scanned their brains directly afterwards. Their energy markers shifted, and their thinking held up better than it had any right to, because they were very sleep deprived, right? And that was one dose and one night. Well, which raised the obvious question, did it have to be that much? So they ran it again, publishing the follow-up this April of this year. It's a brand new, basically, right? Just before summer 2026 here, right? Because everyone talked about that one study from 2.5 years ago. Well, this is just a few weeks old. 29 people, double-blind, randomized controlled for that variable, each tested against their own placebo night with the dose cut to around 14 grams. It still worked. Up to 12% better across logic, numbers, language speed, and reaction time. And women responded actually even more strongly as men. Men reacted strongly, women reacted more strongly. Look at this beautiful sunset here. Logic up 12%, language speed up 18%. So look at that number again. 14 grams is about 3 times what most people put in their shaker. Usually recommendation like 5 grams, which is it's a good dose, especially for workouts. And here's what the headlines are actually skipping. The reason it actually worked. In a rested brain, creatine barely gets in. The researchers said it plainly. The cellular stress of missing a night is what opened the door and let creatine reach the brain. It only works, this high dose only works when you're already working empty or running empty, when you had a sleep deprived night. So generally that normal dose is recommended for the muscle gains and everything. But whenever you have a very high demand, a bad night's sleep, and healthy kidneys, which is one requirement for higher doses of creatine, well, then it's working like magic. So let's get straight into what you are actually here for. What to do with this information. Number one, if you take creatine daily, keep going. beautiful. 3 to 5 grams. I rather would take, at the moment, I'm not taking creatine, but if I take creatine, I take 5 grams and 8 grams, something like that, right? And then you have to drink a little bit more of plain creatine monohydrate. In fact, I made a video before about the proper creatine monohydrate treatment or protocol popping up on top of the screen right now. And it should be third-party lab tested, or you just take the German Creapure brand, which is the best one in the world if you are asking me. Number 2, if you are a woman, this data suggests you may have more to gain than men. Number 3, treat the 14-gram dose as an experimental protocol, not a routine. Don't take 14 grams or 25 grams every single day. This is not what this is meant for. This is not what this video is about. And number 4, the one that matters the very, very most. Nobody in that lab woke up refreshed. Their fatigue climbed all night. Creatine softened the damage you had from the bad night's sleep. It didn't replace the sleep itself. Sleep is a cornerstone of our health. You have to prioritize diet, sleep, social connection, faith, and all of these things. This is not a replacement. Every study is linked below as always, and honestly, that's where most supplements land once you read the actual paper. They won't rebuild you overnight, and anyone promising you that is selling you some BS. But in the right moment, a good one gives back a little bit of what we missed that last night. This is a powerful tool which you might need in moments you have to perform the most. Ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to the channel right here and watch this very important video. And as always, guys, bye.